And there's a really interesting thing I've discovered, which is the people who've done the most learning and growth and development are the people who find learning and growth and development easiest, because they've learned how to do it, right? They can do it. And so they're open and they're courageous, and they understand where the edge of their comfort zone is, and they know go outside it and you're going to survive, and you might actually have a really good time outside your comfort zone because you've done it before and before.
Sure.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. You've got it locked to the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to check us out on our social media channels. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. And again, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, then you know we've got that bell down below. Ding, ding, ding. And you tap that bell, you're connected to all great things audacious related. Now, high achievers are described as those ambitious, goal-focused, self-disciplined individuals who are driven by a strong personal desire to accomplish meaningful, important goals. Essentially, high achievers push and push and push, and they don't stop. Catherine Llewelyn is a professional business coach who specializes in working with these highly focused individuals, and I'm really happy to have her here on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, as she really provides an informative chat around the anatomy of these special individuals. Certainly, I think it was insightful, and high achievers, again, they're unique individuals, they're goal-focused and extremely determined, and they don't stop. And I think that's a really important point. They continue not to stop. And if you think about the bold framework, better than yesterday, that B, it's very much about self-improvement, continuing to push, continue to go forward. And that's exactly what high achievers are and what they're all about. And you're going to hear more about them from Catherine, who I'm really happy to have her join me here on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. Enjoy. Hey, Catherine, it is such a pleasure to have you here on the Audacious Living Podcast. Thank you. And I really appreciate you making the time and doing this. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You had me at Audacious.
Yes, sometimes it's just that first word is all you need and everything else is sold, a done deal. So no, it's as I was saying before we press record, there's just something that I very much feel, a couple things. One, I think it's very much a part of me and how I've operated. I didn't recognize it right away until it sort of I'm like, oh, wait a second. And I started to see some patterns in my life and looking back at sort of accomplishments and milestones and victories. I'm like, those things only happen because I demonstrated this form of audacity in some capacity. And I just think as well, because of my experience, I think it's something that serves well for others as well too. So that's how we got here. And that's why I'm doing this, and glad to have you be a part of this journey.
Thank you.
Now, you are a self-mastery coach, and you help people with respects to achieving or finding their potential. Is that the closing version of saying that?
Pretty much, yeah. And actually applying it in their lives. So they're not just finding it.
Yes.
Well done, I found it. Now I'm just going to go back to the couch and it's actually use it in life.
Right. That's like the equivalent of sort of, digging the treasure you find and walking away and leaving it, right? Like you gotta.
Yeah, I'll just put that in the bank and that's it. End of discussion. I just want to say, the other day I was someone I was talking to, and they said, "What's your superpower?" Right?
Uh-huh.
And I rang my brother and said, "What do you think my superpower is?" And he said, "Catherine, flamboyance
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And flamboyance is an expression of your actual superpower, which is freedom of spirit, right? Now, I'm saying this because I think freedom of spirit is what Audacity is all about. We need to find our freedom of spirit, and then we can be audacious.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, we're just pretending.
Right. Right. Well, and I think my experience has been is that, and I like the fact that you use the word finding, right? Because it's what that suggestion means. It's already inside of us. It's already there. It's a matter of us uncovering that. And I think an important distinction in this is the fact that we all find that audacious spirit at different points. We're not on the exact same path, journey, wavelength. So when I uncover mine, it may be very different than Catherine when you find yours. And I think the challenge for individuals has always been that comparison. Oh, so-and-so's gotten that, and so-and-so's done that. But you've got no idea what's gone on for them to get to where they've gotten to.
Yes, that's right. And also the environment that they're in. So when I was thinking about coming on, I was thinking about my childhood and things that for me were audacious then, right? Or things my parents did with us then that were audacious then, which nowadays might not be really that audacious. Now everybody's doing it, right?
That's
There's
right.
Write 18 books about it. But back then it was sort of wild. And there are things that are wild now that won't be wild in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure when the Wright brothers started to experiment with this whole thing of flying planes, people are like, what is going on here? Now it's a part of our world, part of our life. We can't live without it. And we just accept it. It is what it is. And so I think the environment is a very, very, very good point. So thank you for making that. So walk me through and understand the work of a self-mastery coach and what that maybe means as a starting point. Let's get down to the basics here, what that means and what you actually do with individuals.
Cool. So, well, first off, the term self-mastery is not really the right term, but it's the closest one I found. Because the self is a sort of unlimited, mysterious, wonderful thing. And you can't really master it, and if you try and really master it, all you're going to do is lock yourself in a box. So having said that to begin with, what I'm really talking about with self-mastery is knowing ourselves really, really well and really understanding what it is that we want. And then really understanding how to put those two things together so that we are living a rich and a satisfying life which is following what we believe in, following the contribution we want to make, and just living the best life we can. Right. And in the work that I do, because I'm tending to work with business leaders and people like that. So for them, part of a really good life is being successful as well as being happy and as well as their family being taken care of. So very often it's about creativity and delivering the results that you want. And often doing it in an audacious way, actually, because if you want to succeed, you've got to be prepared to go outside what everybody else is doing. Yes. Otherwise, what's the point? Why would anybody come with you?
Right.
And particularly now, I did some research during, I don't know what it was like where you are, but over here in the UK, we were sort of in lockdown more or less for a couple of years.
Yes.
And I did quite a lot of research in terms of conversations with a lot of people of all kinds. And I found the ones who came out of it the best were the ones who thought for themselves, had the courage and the bravery to step outside what they expected they could do or what other people expected they could do or the norm.
Right.
And while everyone else is hunkering down and, trying to buy lots of toilet roll and bottled water and stuff and building bunkers in the garden and all that stuff, while everyone else is doing that, there are some people being quite courageous and going out there with a new idea and trying something out and sometimes failing, but certainly coming out of it feeling a lot better about themselves, even if they failed. So in my work, the people who want to work with me are usually the people who don't just want to kind of gradually do a little bit better than they did last year. Yeah, they want to make a leap to the next level, and they want to do it in a way that's not just stupid. They think about it a bit, and also be bold, but be bold, with the right shoes on. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
If you want to go running, you wear the right shoes. You don't just
This
go,
is it.
I'm going to go running. I'm brave enough to go running in bare feet. Well, unless you're a Maasai warrior, that's probably
Right,
work. Okay.
right,
So,
right, right, right,
so
right.
it's like kind of combining self-knowledge to where people really want to go, or really what they want to embody in their life, and putting it together in a way that really, really works and makes a difference.
Yes, yes. The interesting. I believe you said you work with business leaders. Is that what you had said? So, which I think is interesting, because you would think that you are individuals that you're leading, that they rely on you, depend on you. You think a certain level of self mastery would already exist. Does
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The people who come to me, they're already in really good shape.
Yes.
The thing is, though, we've all got more potential always. We've all got more. And there's a really interesting thing I've discovered, which is the people who've done the most learning and growth and development are the people who find learning and growth and development easiest, because
Gotcha.
they've learned how to do it, right?
Yes.
They can
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
And they're open and they're courageous, and they understand where the edge of their comfort zone is, and they know
Yes.
go outside it and you're going to survive, and you might actually have a really good time outside
Yeah.
your comfort
Yeah.
zone because you've done it before and before.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
What they're asking me to do, they're coming to me and I'm saying, great, tell me about your process already. Tell me how you got to where you are already.
Yes.
And you've really got your hands on already. Great. So then let's find the bits about you that are great that you don't already know about. And let's bits that are great about you that you haven't used yet, or that you only used over here, but you've not used over there.
Right. Well, good on them. Because look, it's very easy to say, hey, I've achieved success. I'm at a certain level already. I don't need to do more work. I'm fine. Look what it's got me. And I can understand that argument to a certain degree, but good on them for saying, no, there's always more to be done. There's always, what I did yesterday was fantastic, but I can do better tomorrow, right? So to be able to do that and take it a step further and then go to a coach to help them, I think that's pretty significant. They should get credit for that.
Totally. Well, I do praise and acknowledge these people very thoroughly. Mm-hmm. Although I have some people have problems receiving praise and acknowledgement, so sometimes that's the conversation.
Sure.
Here in the UK, I mean, the US people seem to be a lot more comfortable with it than the British people, I will say.
Okay. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. Well, I think you probably know why it is, right?
We can speculate, yes. But I do understand. I do understand what you're saying, and the idea, just again, the idea of getting better. And I also you made reference to a term, knowing your comfort zone and knowing where that edge is, right? And because for a lot of people, you get to that zone of uncomfortability, and you're like, okay, put the brakes on, let's stop here, we're good, right? But to be able to sort of push through and say, hey, beyond that, there's something more for me. I mean, that's again, that's I commend that. That's great.
Yeah.
The idea of so I guess for some of these leaders, it's recognizing opportunities that exist with to I was gonna say leverage opportunities, but to leverage growth opportunities, I guess, if you will, right? Because in every situation, you can always learn from. Like, when you're assessing your reaction to a situation or how you responded to an individual, you can always learn from that and do that personal assessment. What are these leaders? I mean, I guess I'm wondering about their level of comfort in accepting that feedback and how they respond to that.
Well, actually, I tend to use a technique whereby I get them to give themselves the feedback.
Oh, okay.
So much, much more than me giving them the feedback. So that when I come to give feedback, it's kind of more like the exceptional. So I might say to them, okay, so you've got this. So you had your board meeting we last met, right? You've had your board meeting, right? How did it go?
Okay.
And great. So were you satisfied with what was accomplished? Yes. Let's say it's yes. I go, awesome. What do you think you did that made that happen? How did you make that happen? Well, I don't know. I just did it the same normal way. Well, you must have done something good, right? Unless you didn't really achieve anything very important. No, no, no. We achieved this fantastic thing about this new territory, and this new guy is coming in, and they seem to be on board, and everyone seemed to really gel well.
Right.
What did you do? Well, I don't know. Oh, actually, you know what? I went for a walk in nature just before, and I thought about my intention for the meeting, which I don't always do, and I did that. That's interesting. And actually, I resolved an issue at home with my wife the night before. So I was in a really clean space. Actually, do you know what? I really did work that meeting pretty well. And I go, great. Does that tell us about your strengths?
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I'm actually quite good at this and this and this and this. Fantastic. So what have you got coming up in the next month? How can you use that even more intentionally in the next month? They're going, hey, do you know what? I've got that joint venture meeting coming up. I think I could. There's someone in that joint venture meeting I'm not quite comfortable with right now. I think I need to take him out for lunch the week beforehand. You see what I mean? So it's like they are coming up with it, not me.
Right. And really what I love about that technique and approach is it forces them to pay attention to things that you might sort of just take for granted and not necessarily think there's a connection. Sometimes there's things that are happening around us and we don't see, hey, how's intertwined into where we're at in this present moment. And so by getting your clients to literally go through step by step, literally, and do this assessment, they're starting to recognize all the things that they're doing and all the things that are possibly contributing to where they're at.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And again, I like that because it's very intentional, right? So it's very, very intentional and very, very deliberate. But it's also hard, Catherine. Like to drill it down. It's not an easy thing to do. How do you get people to recognize everything matters?
Well, first of all, I come in with an attitude of this can be done. I'm very encouraging with people. I mean, I'm not kind of gushing all over them and tapping them, patting them on the head, because that would be disgusting, right? So, because I've done this so many times with so many people, I know it can be done. I just know it, and I know everybody can do it if they want to. I just know it. Now, people pick up on that. It's like if you go to a fitness coach and they take a look at you and they know what is possible to do with this person. They just know it's possible. And they go, no, just keep doing it. You'll be good. You'll be fine. In 3 months' time, you won't recognize yourself. And you go, you know what? I believe you. I believe you because look at you. You look incredible. And you obviously know how to do this. So, but I just go in at whatever pace they're ready to go. I don't try and, don't try and hold them back. I don't try and make them go faster. I just work with them.
Yes.
But I'm constantly consolidating. This is the other thing. I was talking to someone yesterday and he said, I carry around this little tiny notebook because I realize that every single day, interesting things happen all day. But then you forget about it by the next day.
Yes.
Right. Now, this person, his job is to do research into what things that are interesting. Okay. That's an unusual job, right? And he said, when you actually notice things in the moment, or if you talk about it after you notice it, you realize there's so much there.
Yeah.
But you said we go through life and we just miss it.
Yes.
And people always say we learn from our mistakes. Well, we do, but we can also learn from our successes. And no one ever thinks of doing that.
Yep.
Why not just repeat the thing you did really well?
It's true. So last week we had this huge snowfall here. I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we had this huge blizzard. And I was taking my daughter to school, and right in front of the school there was this bank of snow. And the only way to get to, and it was right in front of the entrance. The only way to get to the entrance was a kind of step. It wasn't very big, but big enough to step over. And so I said, okay, I'll step over first, and I'll help her over. I got to the other side of the snowbank, and what I didn't know was a little puddle of ice. And I sort of stepped on it, and I sort of, shake a bit, but I didn't fall. I got my balance, and I was okay. And then I was able to help my daughter over. But because I had that experience of what I had just done, I was able to guide her, and she got through the ice and was okay. And we got inside, and I started to think about, oh, wow, that's a really kind of neat lesson in life about the things that you see as problems and you don't know what else is coming. And then the fact I'm able to help her. And so that was an example of me paying attention to something small. So your point where there are little things that happen throughout our days that do have significance. And I'm able to tell you a story about this bank of snow and ice, and you go, yeah, it makes sense. And so those are the things that we need to pay more attention to. And it's hard in the moment, right? It's hard to vote because you're caught up with life and all the other things around that. But to walk around the little notebook, maybe that's the way we do it, right? That way we capture all the good stuff.
That's a beautiful story, and I will actually remember that.
Right.
And one thing about that story that stands out is that it's a physical experience. If you land on the ice and you feel it with your feet,
yes,
feeling, am I going to crash or not? Or am I going to hurt myself or whatever? And then is my child
yes.
going to be okay? Am I going to be able to support my child? Should I tell my child to go round instead? Whatever, all that's your body, your heart, your breath,
yes.
everything.
Yes.
Those are the things we remember the most, the things that we experience all the way through us.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing very often in the work. I'm asking people, well, how did you feel when that happened? They talk about a difficult situation with somebody. How did you feel? Well, right. I thought he was wrong because of this and this and this. I get that entirely. How did you feel in your body? And when we connect with how we feel in our body, that's when we find out what's really going on with us, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And as long as we're paying attention, because sometimes we don't always pay attention to what's happening in our bodies, and it's screaming at us and telling us, hey, you need to look at this. And, either we ignore it, we don't see it, or we're just focused on something else. But yes, listening is important. So, Catherine, how did you land in this line of work? How did you get here? And the fact that you're able to help executives and business leaders where you are, how did you sort of find your footing?
Well, it's quite a story. I'm from when I was very, very young, I was very interested in what is it that makes people happy, and why do people spend so much time talking nonsense that they don't believe, right? I was a really annoying child, and he asked me these questions. So I knew right back then I was going to kind of be in something to do with what it is to be a human being. And when I was in my early 20s, I came across some enlightenment intensives work,
okay.
And these days everyone's done that, right? But that back then it was a cult,
yes. The new thing. Yeah.
No! So anyway, I thought that was great. So I went and threw myself into that, and I learned an awful lot about myself, my own ego, my own belief systems, my own energy, responsibility, spirituality, all sorts of things. And after that, I started working with some people I'd met through that experience who'd also done well. We all decided to work together. We had no idea what we were doing. We were enthusiastic. So we somehow managed to start making a living together, and gradually we started doing training work for clients.
Okay.
We were sort of training people to be much more authentic and real and in their skin. Right. And then they go back to work, right, these people, and then their bosses would call us and say, what are you supposed to do with these people now? They're completely uncontrollable. We can't predict them. How are we supposed to manage them? They're getting great results, but they're talking back. What are we supposed to do? So we said, all right, we'll train you. They went, oh, great. Okay. So we just started training up and up and up and up until in the end, we were working at kind of board level with the really budget organizations. And before long, I started working kind of one-to-one with the people on the board, or sometimes with the whole team. So that little story I've just told you started at the age of 6 and went up till the age of 40, right? And then I was independent and started my own business, doing that work at board level on my own. So it was a mixture of accident, interest, energy, kind of all mixed in together.
They say oftentimes that, when you look at your life forward, it's an art, but when you look back, it's a science, right? So when you're able to go back and connect the dots, it all makes sense. I went here because I had to go here, I had to do that. Whereas in the moment, you're just kind of going with what your gut and heart said and what made sense in the moment, right? But they all connect in some capacity. So that's great to hear. And so as you are making that ascension up and up and up to the different levels, I'm assuming like it's feeling like the right move to make, like, because I mean to start from the bottom and go straight up, it's not. I mean, sure, it's not that it can't be done, but I guess as you're going, where you get like at each level, where you find like there was something missing, or there was another element needed. Like why the ascension up each time?
Well, because there was a job to be done.
Okay,
there was a job that had to be done at the next level in order to support what we'd already done. And also the people at the next level were screaming at us to help them. For God's sake, help us, right?
Right.
And we were being sort of pulled up.
Okay. Yes.
But at every level, it was a new challenge for me, because at every level, I would discover another issue that I had, another piece of baggage or something, which didn't show at the lower levels. But when I went up to the next one, which was more challenging, then I would discover another thing I had to deal with in myself in order to be able to do that next level. Can
you give an example of what that looks like? I'm curious. So what like is
oh God, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm just but there's that experience. It's a bit like if you go into a situation that's at a higher level with people who are more impressive or higher paid, or
I see
more demanding, and then you're only as good as the last thing that you did, in a way. So you're going, how am I going to deal with these people?
Understood.
How am I going to deal with these people? How am I going to cope with this thing? Dealing with like self-worth, self-doubt, and also the way they talk is different. The issues they have are different.
Understood.
That exist on the previous level that don't exist on that level. There are new issues I know nothing about, that I have to learn about.
Yes. So it's almost like either a new skill set or new tools were needed to work on this higher level. And so that's where you have to look at yourself and do your own self-development to prepare yourself to help these individuals. Does that make sense?
Right. Definitely. And sometimes you can't do it beforehand because you don't know what's needed till you get there.
That's right.
I think this goes with being audacious, because if you wait until you're really good at something before you go and do it, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
But the audacious thing to do is to say, no, I'm going to do as good a prep as I can, and then I'm going to go in and do my best. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be prepared to say, hold on, guys, can we pause a second? Can we just take a break?
That's right.
I just need to consult someone.
That's right. Right. And figure this out. Sometimes you've got to figure it out on the fly. Right. You just gotta say, you know what, let's get in there and see what happens next. And other times you can take that preparation. But I think the piece that I certainly always go back to is we still need to make that first step, as opposed to thinking about that first step or wondering what will happen when we make that first step, or what's around the corner when we make that first step. We just got to do it and respond accordingly.
That's right. And of course, relationship, the thing I found that made all the difference all of the way through is to actually create real relationships with people along the way, whether that's the client or whether it's the client's secretary.
Got you.
Client's secretary is really important, right? And or the other people in the team with me, or the people who are typing up the slides, or the people who drive in the car that's taking you there, or the people in the hotel, or the people in the restaurant, all of these many, 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 many people who are all involved in me just showing up to spend a day with somebody.
Got you.
Creating all those really good relationships means everyone then supports everybody else and supports me, and I support them.
Yes.
And that's another thing where ego just has to keep dropping away, so that in the end I can show up and I've got no ego going on. I'm just there to serve and do the best I can and draw from all of the experience that I've been blessed to gain over the years.
Right. Understood. I saw on your site you're referencing strategic self-mastery, and I wonder if you can sort of just expand further, because in my mind, I see self-mastery as something strategic that we're doing. Is very intentional. So is that? I wonder if you could expand that a bit, just to help me understand, maybe.
Absolutely. Because when people are running businesses, they talk about being operational or being strategic, and operational is just keep things running without anything falling over. And strategic is like, what's going to take us to the next level? What's really the very smart thing to do with the business in the medium and long term? Okay. So that word strategic is in there because my work is all about self-mastery in service of that strategic success.
Okay.
In the business and in the life.
Right. And so, and I like that in the life because it does impact. It does have influence. We very much aren't a separate person at work or a separate person in our personal life. So if and you talked earlier with the initial example with the leader you spoke with, they said, hey, I smooth out something with my wife, right? Like these things, whether we try to or not, it's as much as we try, they can spill over and come into our thoughts and impact our focus, our ability to pay attention to what's going on. So it does matter, right? Doesn't it?
Oh, of course it does. Well, we feel it, don't we? In the end, all we've got is our experience of how we feel. Are we happy or not? Are we fulfilled or not? Do we feel truthful or not? In the end, that's what we've got when we lie down at night to go to sleep. That's what we have. And when we come out of this life, that's what we've got, right? So in the end, that's what matters. Now, for all of us, different things, like you were saying earlier, being audacious is different from one person to another. Being happy and fulfilled is different from one person to another. And these senior leaders, they're not doing that just because they want to make money.
Right.
The ones I met. They're really, really not. But
they already got the money for some of them, right? They already achieved that.
Very often they have the money, and very often they're still earning a lot of money, and it's fantastic. But the ones I meet are not doing it just for the money. They're doing it because it means something to them. It matters to them. What they're doing matters to them for some reason.
Yes.
And it matters as part of their life. And if it doesn't matter to them, then they're coming to me and saying, I'm doing something that doesn't matter to me, and that's a problem. I want to fix that. So what is it that matters to me? And how can I either transform this thing I'm already doing, right? Which very often can be done. Very often there can be an adjustment made. And suddenly you go from a nightmare to being in heaven in the same job, right? So that can happen. And sometimes it means I need to wind this down and peel off and move on to something else. But I need to do it in a way where nobody gets hurt, where the business is thriving, and where I move on in a good way to the next thing. So we're dealing with what really, really matters for people.
Yes. It's funny again when we talk about leaders. I wonder, are there certain sort of leadership styles that are that make it easier to do the work that you do with these individuals, or because there are so many different leadership styles and leadership approaches, and once upon a time that command and control was a very much model that was used in the workplace or in the workforce. I think it still exists, but I don't think to the same degree it was. So, and I would imagine, a conversation on self-mastery with that type of individual would be a lot more difficult than maybe another type.
Interesting you say that, because one time I was working for one of the main high street banks in the UK.
Okay.
And I'd worked with a number of very senior people there. And then I met someone else who was thinking about working with me. And this guy said to me, and all these people were men in those days, all of those people were men, right? So at that time. So this guy said to me, Catherine, something I really don't understand. How is it you could work successfully with Bill, John, Peter, and Fred? They're all completely different. They've all completely different styles. How is it you can work successfully with all of them? He said, I thought every coach could only work with one type of person. And I went, yeah, well, you see, that's how good I am, right? Of course, is what I said. But I said, obviously, naturally. But I said, because I'm not working with the front. I'm not working with the presentation of the person. I'm not working with what shows on the outside. I'm working with what's behind it, the heart, the spirit of the person. And all those different styles are just behavior. They're just style. It's like you can put on a different set of clothes and you look like a different person. So that's why I can work with all of those people, regardless of what their style is, because what the style they've got is there for a number of reasons. It could be there because it's just what they've picked up along the way.
Right.
What they've learned, picked up from everybody else. Okay. And they've never thought about doing something different.
Right.
It could be because it's the one that is the least scary and the most comfortable for them, for whatever reason. It could be because they read about it in the Harvard Business Review and they think it's the most virtuous style. And so that's what they're going to try and do. Or it could be because they went on a course and they were taught to do a particular style. Okay. Right. Or any number of things. Every now and again, there's the rare person who's got a really diverse set of styles and they've actually into it and done a lot of learning, and they've learned these are a whole variety of styles I can use. This is how and when to use them. This is how to know when to switch and how to switch. In which case, that person does not have a problem with their leadership. That's, but most people have not quite got to that place.
Okay.
But then it's a question of, okay, which is your most natural style that most fits with your inner values, your inner self?
Right.
Now, if your style you're using is a good match for what's inside you, it could be that that's the right style for you to be using. It could also be that you also need other people on your board who've got other styles, different styles, so that between you can keep everything in balance. Right. Or if it doesn't match, then why are you doing it and what would match better? And then do that. Because
I was going to say that sort of falls into authenticity, right? Being authentic to your true style.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because if we're not doing that, then we're acting almost out of character, Catherine.
Yeah. But I think that, the other thing is to look at the organization and ask, what leadership style does this organization require? What is being called for? Sometimes if an organization is going through a very difficult, scary time, which I know a lot of organizations have been over the last couple of years, sometimes you need somebody to say, look, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to lead. I'm just going to say, this is what we're going to do. Is everyone cool with that? And everyone goes, thank you. Awesome, right? You lead, we'll follow. And then when we get to the end of this quarter or year or whatever it is, then we'll have a chat and decide what we're doing next.
Right.
Sometimes that's what's really, really needed. Other times what's needed is for the leader to go, look, guys, I feel like you guys can just lead yourselves. You can lead yourselves, right? So I'm going to let you lead yourselves, but I'm going to be available for those situations, those exceptional situations where you really need me. And meanwhile, I'm going to go out and start talking to some of these other top people, government people, whatever people on our behalf and negotiating and all that kind of thing and pushing out the envelope of our profile, because I know you guys have got it.
That's right. And that goes back to on the operational side of things, right? You guys got the operational, me as the leader, I'm going to do the visionary type stuff. And how do we advance forward 10, 20, 30 years from now, right? But you guys still handle it. And I think that's, and that speaks to having a highly functional team that doesn't need, their leader or their manager, CEO watching every step of the way. They just trust that the work will get done.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. No, that's powerful stuff because you need that, right? I think you really do need that. And it fits into, and also, I should also mention, it also gives leaders time to work on their own self-mastery too, right? So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, we all need some space to reflect and grow, don't we? I know I do.
Yeah. So help me kind of just sort of envision, Catherine, if you don't mind. So I come to you and say, I'm not satisfied. There's something that needs to be done. What's my starting point? What are we looking at first as to get the process going?
Well, the first thing we do is we have a Zoom meeting for like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And you just talk and I ask a few questions and I listen.
Okay.
And by the end of it, usually by the end of that, I know whether or not this person really wants to learn and grow. And I've also got a bit of a sense of, is the chemistry right between us?
Well, that's important.
Yeah, because that's very important. The relationship is one of the prime levers for the success. Also, let's say it was you and me. By the end of that time, you'd have a pretty good idea. Is this someone I'd like to work with for an extended period of time? Would I really like to do that? Or is this someone where I'm, like going to the chiropractor? I'm going because I have to. Okay.
Right.
And I think this sort of work, it's a bit like sex. If you're not enjoying it, you're doing it wrong. Right. And if we're not enjoying the work, we're doing it wrong, or I'm not the right person for you.
Gotcha.
So That first meeting, we get a sense of that, but also I find out from you why you might want to do the work.
Okay.
And what you might want to get out of it, and a bit about where you're at now and what seems to be going on with you. And I also get a sense of what seem to be some of your real strengths and qualities and virtues. I get a sense of that in that first meeting.
Right.
By the end of that, either in that conversation, I'm able to say, look, I'm going to suggest we just do this, X, whatever X is.
Yep.
Or I might say, look, I'm going to go and think about this over the weekend. And then I'd like to just chat with you next week for 20 minutes on Zoom again and just suggest what I think we ought to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of, I'm a great one for not being sure until I'm sure, I'm not going to suggest something until I'm sure it's the right thing to do. But you probably got some idea of what those first things might be that someone might then do with me.
Yes.
So there's two very powerful pieces that most people are doing as their first pieces of work with me. And the first one is called Power of Choice.
Okay.
And this is all about connecting with our true desires and recognizing how much of our desires and motivations are actually not ours. They're actually from other people, or from our conditioning, or from TV, or from somewhere else.
Right. But
very often we're running somebody else's script.
Right.
Very often we're running hard, but not on our own path.
Gotcha.
Or we might be on our own path, but we've got kind of pulls in other directions.
Right. And to know that, we're subscribing to someone else's programming unknowingly is important to understand that whether, so this idea that I have, where did it come from? Was it from me or from someone else? And when you're able to sort of step back and ask that question, that can give you a bit more substance and understanding what's next, right?
Exactly right. And from there, people can really get in touch with what it is that really, really turns them on. I mean, really. And sometimes people are already actually doing that. Sometimes they're on their path, but they may not be fully connected to the essence of what that is for them or what it means. So it's a bit like the situation I said before, where you can still be in the job you're in, but suddenly it's heaven instead of a nightmare because you've got really connected. And the stuff that's not yours, you could just let that drop away with no guilt. Because we all know about letting go of stuff that doesn't matter, but the guilt that can associate with that can be a real energy drain. And we're in a much better position to say to the people we love and our colleagues and everybody else, do you know what? This aspect of what I've been doing isn't really me. Now, normally everyone turns around and says, yeah, we've known that for years, right? You just caught up. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I'm not very bright. Okay. But no, I've got it now. I'm clear now. And then the other one is the power of awareness.
Okay.
That takes a bit longer because it's a bit harder.
Okay.
It's all about really understanding our strengths, our weaknesses, our qualities, everything about us, and also everything about our environment.
Yes. What
serves us in an environment, what doesn't serve us, the conditions around us, everything about what's true now in our lives, like a kind of personal SWOT analysis.
Gotcha.
And that, of course, includes the state of our organization, the state of our top team, every part of our world.
Right.
What's true now. Now, those are the most strategic pieces that I do, and people usually do that first. And then they go on into applying that learning into specific endeavors that they have in their lives. Very, very well prepared and very well informed because of all of that work.
Right. I can certainly see where the power, when you talk about the power of awareness, it's almost like a light bulb at that point, because that just illuminates the whole room and it makes everything clear, right? And so it's almost like the image I have is you're walking into a dark room with the lights off. Well, there's items in that room already. You just got to turn that light on to see what's there. Right. Yeah. And so it's a very similar process where you're seeing what's there and you're like, okay, now I can remodel the room or add a new chair or whatever needs to be done, but I can't do that until I walk in the room and turn the light on.
Beautiful analogy. Yes, that's another very good one. I'm going to keep that.
No problem. I think it's, but I do think it's very, very, very relevant, right? Being able to know what you have in front of you. And so you talk about the power of choice. That was what you referenced, and the power of awareness. What's the next one? Is there a next one? Or action, I would think, right?
Well, the next one is called Power of Focused Immersion.
Okay.
And that's where you put together the people either do like a short Power of Focused Immersion piece, or they do like a much longer piece. If they do a shorter piece to begin with, depends on where they are with it, right? Some people are like, oh God, I want to sign up with you for the next year, right? Some people are, I'll just do another couple of months for now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If they do the couple of months, we choose what's coming up next as your most interesting opportunity. Is it that merger? Is it that joint venture? Is it that new location? Is it that whatever? What's your next really valuable opportunity? Okay.
Right.
And that fits with your power of choice. So it's really important. It's really exciting. It's a real stretch. It's going to make such a difference if you do well with it. Yeah. And then we go, great. Now we know everything about you and your world and everything. What are you going to pull from that to maximize that opportunity? Which of your strengths, which of your resources, which of your advantages, opportunities, the people, everybody, which are the ones you're going to really pull on as leverage in relation to that opportunity? And how do we turn that into a strategy for this next couple of months? Right. I can tell you how exciting this is.
Right.
How exciting this is, right? Because
well, I can tell you though that when you're able to ask that question, like, how can I use this? Again, I think I referenced leveraging opportunities. How can I use this to leverage this and create something bigger, better, bolder? I think that's a wonderful question to ask. It really is.
And people get so very excited because they go, oh my God, I've got all these resources I can just use. I'm not an idiot. I'm actually pretty experienced and quite clever, and I could use this stuff I've already got.
Right.
It's amazing. Right. It's really amazing.
That's outstanding. This has been such a good chat, Catherine. I really so appreciated the dialogue around self-mastery. I know that's not the ideal one you want, but it gets us close to understanding what it's all about. Because really, all audacious actions start with self, right? Yeah. It's totally start with self. The greatest accomplishments in the world, the victories, the successes happens as well as the actions that we take, and having having that sense of self and self-mastery of our own actions gets us to where we want to be, or even gets us to where we don't necessarily know what's behind, curtain number one, but we've got to take that step anyways, right? So I think that's a huge starting point.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So for our listeners, Catherine, who very much appreciated this conversation on self-mastery and the impacts it can have on us and how we can use it to make our lives better, and they want to learn more about you and your work and all the great things you do, including your podcast, where can we send them?
Thank you. I would love people to listen to my podcast, because on there, sometimes you get just me solo.
Yes.
Sometimes you get me and a really amazing guest. I have unbelievably great guests. So the podcast is called Truth and Transcendence.
Okay.
And the "and" is the squirrely ampersand in the middle.
Okay.
And I think I've done 86 episodes now.
Wonderful.
And it comes out every week, 4:00 on a Friday afternoon, UK time. So I don't know what that is. Toronto is 5 hours behind.
I believe we are 5, correct.
5, yeah. So Truth and Transcendence is the best place to go. Or you can go to my website, which is yesyounow.today.
Oh, I love that. Now, because you're absolutely taking control now, and you're taking action now, and again, self-mastery. It's got to start. It all starts with self. It starts with self. I do. And to your point earlier, it is an ongoing process, right? So you don't arrive and go, okay, I've mastered myself, I'm good. There's still more that can be done. There's still more we can build on ourselves and add and become better each day. And so I just wanted to make that point. I know you touched on it, but I wanted to reinforce that. We don't want to give the impression here that, hey, I'm done, because it's an ongoing process. It's never done.
Yeah, well, I'm not done. So if you are, I want to know how you did it.
And let me know, right? Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Amazing. Catherine, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on the great work you're doing, and all the best.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Back we are on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Catherine for stopping by for the great chat on the makeup of these high achievers and helping us to understand their anatomy and what really is going on with them. I thought so much of her insights were spot on and certainly enlightening. So again, Catherine, I say thank you very, very much. You know, when I think about the chat that we just had, Catherine left us with so many nuggets of insight, and I appreciate much of what she had to say. But if there's just one thing I take from our chat, it would have to be this. High achievers are those individuals who aren't satisfied with just achieving a certain level of excellence. They continually strive for a higher level because they understand that there's always room for growth and improvement. They have an unwavering desire to push beyond their limits while refusing to be complacent and stagnant and being locked in a comfort zone. Instead, high achievers embrace challenges and obstacles as opportunities to develop their skills and knowledge even further. High achievers have a clear idea of what they want to achieve in life, and they relentlessly pursue those goals with passion, determination, and they go. Success is not just a one-time thing. It's a continuous journey that requires discipline, commitment, and hard work. High achievers understand that the path to greatness is not paved with shortcuts, but with consistent efforts and dedication. Now, in conclusion, high achievers continue to strive for a higher level of excellence because they know that the pursuit of greatness is an unending journey. They remain steadfast in their commitments to personal growth and development while always pushing beyond their limits and not settling with just getting by. We've reached the end of another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. Thank you to every single one of you for tuning in and being with us here on this audacious journey and supporting this podcast week in and week out. So again, a big shout out and thanks to our audacious and amazing listeners. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.